Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are really unpacking something quite radical, but it's also fundamentally simple when you think about it.
Yeah, it's about the true cost, the real cost of earning a dollar.
Exactly. We're diving into a philosophy that aims to change your entire relationship with money, with time, and maybe most critically, with work itself. This deep dive is based on, well, it's really a foundational piece of thinking, recently updated for how we work now in the 21st century.
And it forces you, the listener, to ask a really tough question, maybe the toughest one.
Which is?
Are you exchanging your money or your life?
Oof. Yeah, that's the core conflict, isn't it?
It really is. It's a profound shift in perspective. We're moving away from that treadmill idea, always needing to earn more.
Right.
And instead, we're looking inward, transforming how we even perceive what money is to us. It makes you confront the bargain you've personally made with your own time.
Okay, let's get into that. Let's unpack this with the source's central problem statement. They have a name for it, right?
They do. They call it the money trap.
The money trap. And they argue this trap is so pervasive, it often leads to something they describe quite vividly as making a dying, not making a living.
It's brutally honest about the modern routine, which is why I think it resonates.
Describe that routine. How do they lay it out?
Well, it connects instantly because, we know this cycle, don't we? Think about the average day they paint. Alarm clock screeches at, say, 6:45.
Already tired.
Right. You rush through breakfast, maybe spill coffee. Then you endure the commute, what they call the daily punishment of rush hour.
Yeah.
You spend 8, maybe 10 hours dealing with job drama, the boss, that difficult coworker, the impossible workload.
The endless email.
Endless email. And you finally clock out, but you get home totally drained.
Yeah, zero energy left.
And you need time to just decompress. So you scroll social media, maybe answer one last work email that pops up.
Always one more.
Always. And then you crash into bed just to wake up and do it all over again.
It's that hamster wheel, that perpetual loop where you feel like you're running as fast as you can just to stay in the same place.
Exactly. And the crucial observation they make is this. If you're sacrificing your health, your relationships, your actual joy, just to keep this machine running, if what you do for money dominates almost every single waking hour, then you really are making a dying.
You're trading away your life force hour by hour for currency just to maintain the cycle.
And what's really insidious, and the source points this out very clearly, is how deeply this trap gets tied up with our identity.
How so?
They talk about this phenomenon, they call it Jobism.
Jobism.
Yeah, it's this hidden social hierarchy. We subconsciously measure our own worth and other people's worth by our paychecks.
Wow. Okay.
We assess success by where people work, what title they have, what car they drive, what brands they wear, how much they earn becomes a proxy for their value as a person.
That makes so much sense. We absolutely internalize that pressure, don't we? And it keeps us chained psychologically to maybe high-paying but really draining jobs, even if financially maybe we could actually afford to leave.
Right. It's that constant comparison game. The fear of social demotion if you step off that ladder.
It creates this kind of self-imposed financial dependency almost regardless of the actual numbers in your bank account.
Which is exactly why our mission today in this deep dive isn't just about, giving you tips on how to save a few bucks here and there.
No, it's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's about cutting through all that psychological noise, all that jobism, and laying out a really clear path, a path to what they call financial independence, or FI.
And how do they define FI? It's not about Lamborghinis, is it?
Definitely not. FI in this context isn't about being obscenely rich. It's about achieving something they call financial integrity.
Financial integrity. I like that.
It means knowing exactly how much money is truly enough. Enough for you to live a life that's genuinely aligned with your own deepest values.
And here's the really radical idea, the payoff. If you achieve that financial integrity, you stop optimizing your life purely for profit for the next dollar.
And you start optimizing for joy, for meaning, for fulfillment.
You liberate your most precious, non-renewable resource, your time.
That's the goal.
But it's a deep process, right? It's an internal rewiring. And it has to start with the most fundamental definition of all. What is money, really? Okay, let's dive straight into that. Section 1. the core philosophy. This is where we have to really deconstruct money itself, because the way we usually think about it, well, the source argues it's failing us.
Yeah, we operate day to day assuming money is this stable, concrete thing.
Yeah.
You know, paper, bills, plastic cards, numbers on a screen.
Seems real enough.
But the source really shakes that foundation. It points out that money, fundamentally, is a fiat currency.
Fiat currency, meaning?
Meaning its value isn't inherent. It's not backed by gold or anything tangible anymore. Its value exists purely because we, as a society, agree that it has value.
So it's based on trust, collective agreement.
Exactly. But that agreement, that trust, isn't absolute. It's not inherently real or true in the way that, say, time is.
That's a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? Because we're taught from day one that money is the ultimate store of value. Save it. It'll be there later.
But history is littered with examples where that promise breaks down. The authors argue that the idea of money as a reliable store of value is only truthy.
Truthy. Like, it feels true.
It feels true. It mostly works day to day, but it's not the ultimate unchanging truth. When you save money to spend later, you're banking on a societal promise. And sometimes that promise shatters.
Like during hyperinflation.
Hyperinflation is a classic example. Or think about the collapse of Enron pensions. People's life savings just vanished. Or the Great Recession in 2008. The dollars were still technically there, but their purchasing power, their promise, eroded dramatically for many assets.
Okay, so if money isn't inherently real in that ultimate sense, what is?
This leads us straight to the core realization. The red pill moment, if you like. That changes everything.
Give it to us.
The fundamental definition that is always true for you personally is this. Money is something you trade your life energy for.
Money is something you trade your life energy for. Say more about that.
Your time, your vitality, your focus. That's your life energy. It's the only real finite asset you truly possess. Think about it. If you live to be, say, 80 years old, you have roughly 650,000 hours in that entire lifetime. The source estimates maybe half of that, maybe more, is spent just on basic maintenance.
Like sleeping, eating, showering.
Exactly. Keeping the organism running. The remaining hours, that finite pool of conscious time and energy, that is your treasure. That's your real wealth.
And when you go to a job, you sell those precious, non-renewable hours for money.
Precisely. And that act of trading your finite life energy for currency is the only thing that gives that money its real personal meaning to you.
Wow.
Knowing this, truly internalizing it, allows you to ask a profoundly different question before every single purchase, every financial commitment.
Instead of, can I afford this?
You ask, how many hours of my one precious life did I invest to have this chair, this car, this vacation, this degree?
That completely reframes consumption, doesn't it?
Totally. Suddenly that, I don't know, $200 gadget isn't just $200. If your real hourly wage is $20 an hour.
Then it's 10 hours of your life, a full workday, plus some.
Exactly. 10 hours you spend away from your family, your hobbies, your passions, just for that thing. Is it worth it? That's the question.
The authors use an analogy for the system that keeps us buying, right? Something about the matrix.
Yeah, they talk about the matrix of consumerism. It's like this societal game that's designed to keep us playing, keep us plugged in. We're born into it.
And we're fed this constant message.
That acquiring stuff will make you happy. That the next purchase, the bigger house, the fancier car, the latest phone.
Yeah.
That's the key to fulfillment. It's the illusion.
It feels almost like a societal mandate sometimes. We're told consuming is good for the economy. It's like economic patriotism. Keep the wheels turning.
Right. And the material points out a dangerous pattern. Our expectations, fueled by advertising and social comparison, constantly rise, often faster than our income.
Which pushes people into debt. Credit cards, loans.
And that debt traps us further in the cycle. We have to keep working those long hours just to service the debt we incurred trying to buy happiness.
That is a vicious cycle.
It really is. And that's why the language we use matters. Think about it. We are literally called consumers.
What does that imply?
To consume means to use up, to waste, to squander. The system defines us by our ability to destroy value.
So winning the game, according to this philosophy, isn't about having the most stuff when you die.
No. Winning the game means reaching a point where you have precisely what you need and nothing in excess. Enough. And crucially, achieving the ability to stop playing the game whenever you choose. To unplug from that consumer matrix at will. That's real freedom.
But okay, if money is just our finite life energy, why do we keep selling more and more of it? Why are we so caught up in the more is better myth?
That takes us right into section 2. This is where we looked at the data, the psychology, and the sort of painful truth behind that myth.
Because it feels like more money should make us happier.
It does, up to a point. And this is where behavioral economics comes in, particularly the research by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman.
Right, I've heard about his work on happiness and income.
His studies, and others like them, found something pretty consistent beyond a certain level of income sufficiency. More money simply does not translate into significantly more day-to-day happiness or emotional well-being.
Okay, but what is that level? I know the source mentions a figure like $75,000 a year in the U.S.
It does cite that figure from older studies. Now, we absolutely have to acknowledge
That number has to be higher now, right? And it depends hugely on where you live. $75K in New York City is very different from $75K in rural Iowa.
Absolutely fair point. Costs vary wildly. Inflation has happened. That specific number needs adjustment for location and time. You're right.
Okay.
But the fundamental principle holds true. Once your basic needs are comfortably met, once you're reasonably secure, moving into a sort of solid middle-class life, the correlation between more salary and your actual daily felt happiness starts to flatten out dramatically.
So the extra $50 on top of that comfortable level doesn't buy you nearly as much happiness as the first $50 did.
Exactly. The bang for your buck, in terms of happiness, diminishes rapidly. But the real proof, the authors argue, comes from their own seminar data gathered over years. And it seems to hold up pretty universally, even across different economic times.
Tell us about that seminar data. What did they find?
They asked participants from all walks of life, all income brackets, from people really struggling to make ends meet, all the way up to multimillionaires.
The whole spectrum.
The whole spectrum. They asked them to rate their current level of happiness on a simple scale, like 1 to 5.
And the results?
Astonishingly consistent. Across the board, people rated their happiness somewhere between 2.6 and 2.8. Basically, universally meh. Not miserable, but not exactly thriving either.
Wow. Regardless of income.
Regardless of income. And then came the kicker question. How much money do you think you would need to be truly happy? Like a 4 or 5 on that scale.
Let me guess. Everyone said more.
Not just more. Everyone, consistently, said they needed about 50% more than I have right now.
Wow. So the person making $50 needed $75K. The person making $200K needed $300K. The millionaire needed
another $500,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was this incredible moment of realization for people in those seminars. They looked around the room and saw that the person sitting next to them probably had the more they thought would solve all their problems.
And yet that person was just as meh, and also thought they needed 50% more.
Precisely. They realized the desire for more wasn't necessarily about an external financial reality. It was an internal mechanism, a moving target, a habit of the mind.
Okay, so how does this play out visually? The source uses a curve, right?
Yes, the fulfillment curve. It's a powerful way to visualize the relationship between spending money, acquiring stuff, and actual, genuine fulfillment or happiness.
How does it work?
Okay, think of a graph.
Yeah.
The horizontal axis is money spent or stuff acquired. The vertical axis is fulfillment.
Got it.
Initially, when you spend money, fulfillment shoots up dramatically. This is when you're meeting basic survival needs. Getting enough food, finding safe shelter, basic clothing for warmth.
Makes sense. Money buys a lot of happiness when you have nothing.
Right. And the mind locks onto this pattern early on. Need something. Don't look outside myself. Get stuff, or money to buy stuff. Get fulfillment. This pattern worked when we were infants crying for milk. And we tend to stick with it even when the returns diminish.
So what happens after basic needs are met?
As we climb the economic ladder, we start spending on, well, niceties, then luxuries. That first car, maybe a bigger apartment, some fashionable clothes, vacations.
The curve still goes up, presumably.
It still goes up, yes, but less steeply. The thrill costs more life energy to acquire, and the happiness boost tends to wear off faster. That new car smell doesn't last forever.
True. And then, does it just level off?
This is the crucial part. According to the source, it doesn't just level off. For many people, as they move into serious affluence, the curve actually starts to decline. More money starts to bring less fulfillment.
How can that be? More money, less happiness.
Because more money, beyond a certain point, brings more complications, more worry, more demands on your time and energy. Think about it. Higher tax brackets mean needing tax accountants.
Right.
More complex investments require financial advisors. More possessions mean more insurance, more maintenance, more security concerns. A bigger house needs more cleaning, more repairs, maybe remodeling.
It becomes a job just managing the stuff.
It can absolutely become a drain on your life energy just to manage the stuff that was supposed to make you happy.
So the goal isn't to maximize money, it's to find the peak of that curve.
Exactly. The radical promise of this whole program is finding the peak. And that peak has a name, enough.
Enough, not deprivation, but
But optimization. It's the sweet spot.
how do they define enough?
They describe it as a fearless place. It's having your necessities covered, enjoying some niceties, maybe a few small luxuries that genuinely add joy. But crucially, it's without excess. Without the extra stuff that weighs you down, distracts you, or causes stress and worry.
It's a place where you fully appreciate what money can bring you, but you're conscious. You don't buy things that aren't truly needed or deeply wanted and valued.
You're in control, and what lies beyond that peak dragging our fulfillment back down.
That's where the clutter comes in.
Clutter. Defined as anything that doesn't actually serve you, but still takes up physical space, mental energy, money, and worry.
And this clutter often shows up in a specific way, right? They have a term for it.
The Gazingus pin.
The Gazingus pin. Explain that. It sounds intriguing.
It's brilliant, because it's so relatable. A Gazingus pin is that specific item or category of items that you find yourself compulsively buying, almost on autopilot.
Driven by habit or maybe some unexamined emotional need rather than actual necessity.
Precisely. Think about it for yourself or people you know. Is it earbuds, fancy coffees, specialty chocolates, that 10th pair of running shoes when you only run twice a week, new gadgets?
We all have one, or maybe several.
You become like a shopping robot, as they put it. You convince yourself you need the slightly upgraded version, the wireless one, the waterproof one. You buy it.
And then it goes into the drawer, the Gazingus pin drawer.
Right next to the others. You forget about it until the next time the impulse strikes.
I definitely have a drawer like that. Mine's full of like half-used subscription box items that promised curated joy but just delivered stuff.
And think,
Yeah.
how many hours of your life energy did you trade for those forgotten socks or that artisanal jam?
Ouch. Don't ask.
The authors really encourage you to confront this clutter physically. Go through your closets, your garage. Price those 20 pairs of unworn shoes. Figure out what that unused exercise bike is actually worth now at a garage sale.
Because its real value isn't the potential fitness you didn't achieve.
Its real value is the cash you can get for it now, which represents life energy you can reclaim and redirect toward your actual freedom. That realization can be incredibly powerful.
Okay, that philosophical groundwork is really solid. It makes intuitive sense. But how do we actually do this? That brings us to section 3, the practical roadmap. This is where the theory hits the road, right? Where we stop just thinking and start calculating.
Exactly. The first 3 steps are absolutely foundational. They set the stage for everything else. And step 1 is all about achieving what they call financial integrity.
Financial integrity, and how do we do that?
By making peace with the past. This means doing a thorough, honest financial inventory. It can be uncomfortable, even painful for some, but it's often incredibly empowering too.
Okay, what does the inventory involve?
It has 2 main parts. Part A is calculating your total lifetime earnings.
Total lifetime earnings, like every dollar that's ever come into my life.
Every single dollar you can reasonably track down. You use old tax returns, Social Security statements, maybe old bank records if you have them. Dig deep.
That sounds like a lot of work. What's the point? Is the number itself the important part?
The number can be eye-opening for sure, but the real power is often psychological. It's about acknowledging the flow of life energy through you.
Okay.
They tell this powerful story in the book about a divorced woman, maybe in her mid-30s. She had this deep-seated feeling of dependency, genuinely believing she hadn't contributed financially during her marriage.
She felt she hadn't pulled her weight.
Exactly. But when she did this calculation, digging up records of small part-time jobs, craft sales, things she'd dismissed, she realized she had actually earned over $50,000 during those years. And that raw data, that objective number, completely shifted her self-perception. It wasn't just a feeling anymore, it was proof. It gave her the confidence to apply for and get a job paying twice what she previously thought she was worth.
So it's about reclaiming your financial story.
Precisely. Transforming your self-image from maybe dependent or inadequate to capable and productive. Okay, then part B of the inventory is calculating your net worth. This is the classic assets minus liabilities calculation.
Right. What you own minus what you owe.
Yeah. But here's the challenge they pose.
Yeah.
What have you got to show for all those total lifetime earnings that flowed through you?
Oof. That's the confronting part.
It can be. You list your assets, house, car, savings, investments, but critically, at their current market value. What could you realistically sell them for today? Use the Kelly Blee book for your car. Get a realistic estimate for your house.
Not what you paid for it or what you wish it was worth.
Reality check time. And then you list all your liabilities, mortgage, student loans, credit card debt, everything you owe.
And you have to face the truth of the debt and also, back to the clutter, really confront the stuff. Pricing that unworn gear, the tools gathering dust.
Yes. It becomes an emotional process for many people. The book mentions one participant who took 3 whole months to go through her inventory. She didn't just list things. She recalled how and why each item came into her life.
And what happened?
It led her to this unexpected place of deep gratitude. Gratitude for what she already had. It shifted her whole outlook from feeling like she was always lacking something to realizing the prosperity that was already present in her life. Just acknowledging and valuing what you own can be transformative.
Okay, so step 1, make peace with the past through the inventory. What's step 2?
Step 2 is the absolute core intellectual tool of this whole program. It's about being in the present.
How do we do that financially?
By tracking your life energy in real time. This means adopting a no shame, no blame consciousness about your money.
No shame, no blame. I like that. Less judgment.
Zero judgment. The instruction is simple, though maybe not easy. For at least 1 full month, track every single cent that comes into or goes out of your life. Every coffee, every bus fare, every paycheck deposit, every vending machine snack.
To see the reality of where the money, the life energy is actually going versus where you think it's going.
Exactly. Our assumptions are often wildly off. But the truly transformative part of step 2 is calculating your real hourly wage.
Ah, yes. This seems critical. Because we usually just look at our nominal wage, right? Like, I make $25 an hour. Sounds pretty good.
Sounds okay, maybe. But the program argues that number is fundamentally false. It's a deceptive simplification.
Because it doesn't account for all the hidden costs of having that job.
Precisely. You have to factor in all the extra time and all the extra money expenses that are directly and solely related to holding down that specific job.
Okay, let's break that down carefully, because this is where I imagine listeners might get tripped up or even resist a bit. What specifically are we talking about beyond the, say, 40 hours we're actually paid for?
Great question. Start with the hidden time investment. First and most obvious, commuting time, door to door. That's time you cannot get back, and it's only required because of the job.
Okay, commute time. What else?
Then there's time spent on what they call costuming.
Costuming, like work clothes.
Yes. Shopping for specific work attire, time spent ironing, doing makeup if that's expected, trips to the dry cleaner. Time spent maintaining the professional image required by the job.
Okay, makes sense.
Then factor in time and money spent on convenience meals necessitated by the job schedule. Lunches bought out because you didn't have time to pack one, coffee breaks needed to stay awake, maybe after-work drinks or dinners with clients or colleagues that feel obligatory.
Right, the food and drink tax of working.
Pretty much. And here's a really sneaky one they highlight. Daily decompression time.
Decompression.
Yeah. If your job is so stressful or draining that you need an hour of mindless TV or 2 hours video games or a couple of beers just to unwind enough to function in your personal life.
That recovery time is actually a cost of the job.
They argue, yes. If the fatigue or stress is job-induced, the time and maybe money, like the cost of those beers spent recovering from it, is a hidden job expense. It's time you wouldn't need to spend recovering if the job itself wasn't depleting you.
That's provocative. What about vacations?
Same logic applies. If your vacation isn't about joyful exploration, but is really just a necessary time out to recharge your batteries so you can tolerate going back to the grind.
Then the time and cost of that recovery vacation is also part of the true cost of the job. Wow.
It challenges our assumptions. Other things include time spent on job-related errands, maybe time dealing with job-related illnesses caused by stress, costs of services like childcare or house cleaning that you only need because your job demands so much of your time and energy.
Okay, let's walk through a concrete example calculation, like the one in the book. Let's use that $25 an hour nominal wage, 40 hours a week. That's $1,000 gross pay.
Right, $1,000 on paper. Now let's add the hidden time adjustments. Let's say your commute is 10 hours total per week, round trip.
Okay, 10 hours.
Let's add 5 hours a week for costuming, getting ready, shopping, maintenance.
5 hours.
And maybe this job is stressful, so you need, realistically, 10 hours of mandatory decompression time each week just to cope.
10 hours decompression.
And throw in another 5 hours for miscellaneous job-related stuff, grabbing lunch, quick errands during the day, maybe checking email after hours.
Okay, so that's 10 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5. That's 30 extra hours per week related to the job.
Exactly. So you have the 40 hours you're paid for, plus 30 hours of unpaid but required job-related time. Your total time investment in this job is actually 70 hours per week.
70 hours of your life energy. Okay. Now factor in the money costs.
Let's say you spend about $100 per week just on things required for the job. Gas for the commute, maybe some parking fees, those work lunches, dry cleaning, maybe a specific software subscription.
Okay, $100 out-of-pocket expense.
So you earned $1,000 gross pay, but you immediately spend $100 of that just to be able to earn it. Your net gain from the job is actually $900.
$900 net gain for 70 hours of your life invested.
Now do the division. $900 divided by 70 hours equals approximately $12.85 per hour.
Wow. So that $25 an hour job is actually paying you less than $13 an hour in real terms.
Precisely. That is your real hourly wage. And the core transformative question becomes, are you willing to trade your precious life energy hour after hour, week after week for this real wage?
That reframes the decision completely.
It does. Many people, like the example of Mark H. in the source material, do this calculation and realize they're spending almost all their income just supporting the appearance and complexity of their high-status job. Once they see the numbers, they can make conscious choices, brown bagging lunch, taking the bus, ditching the expensive wardrobe, and dramatically increase their real take-home pay and free up life energy.
Okay, but I have to push back slightly here. This is important. How do you draw the line? If I calculate that my job makes me so tired I need a housekeeper and I subtract that cost, how do I know I'm not just, blaming the job for what might be my own poor time management or life choices? Where's the personal responsibility?
That is a critical question and a fair challenge. The methodology isn't about blame. It tries to address this by focusing on systemic factors directly attributable to the job's demands.
Okay.
Is the exhaustion or the need for that service a direct consequence of the job's hours, stress level, or requirements? If you were doing deeply fulfilling work aligned with your purpose, even if it was hard, would you still feel that same level of depletion requiring extreme decompression or outsourcing basic life tasks?
Maybe not to the same extent.
Maybe not. The calculation is meant to be a non-judgmental mirror. It's showing you the cost of the current bargain you've struck with this particular paid employment. It's information. What you do with that information involves personal responsibility, absolutely. But first, you need the clear data. It's an information-gathering step, not a guilt assignment.
That framing helps. It feels less like an accusation and more like a diagnostic tool. Okay, that makes the process feel much more potentially liberating. So we've done the inventory, step 1. We've calculated our real hourly wage, step 2. What's step 3?
Step 3 is the monthly tabulation. This is where you take all that raw data, you track every cent in and out, and you organize it into a meaningful self-portrait of your actual spending habits.
So like creating budget categories.
Yes, but with a crucial difference. The emphasis is on creating custom categories that reflect the unique reality of your life. Not just using generic budget book categories like food, utilities, entertainment, and especially not that black hole called miscellaneous.
Why the emphasis on custom categories?
Because generic categories hide the truth. If you just have food, you don't know how much is essential groceries versus expensive restaurant meals or impulse snacks. The source suggests splitting food into, say, groceries just us versus restaurants versus guests.
Or splitting clothing into basic utility needs versus fashion fun clothing.
Exactly. Or transportation into car necessity versus car fun. The goal is to create categories that allow you to see precisely where your life energy is flowing. They mentioned Rosemary the first categories as an example. She had things like beauty, aesthetics, and health products, clearly showing her values.
Okay, so you track everything, create meaningful categories, and total up the spending in each category for the month. Then what?
Then comes the final powerful conversion in this step. You take the total dollar amount spent in each of your custom categories, and you convert that dollar amount into hours of life energy.
Using the real hourly wage we calculated in step 2.
Precisely. So if your real hourly wage is $12.85 an hour, and your monthly tabulation shows you spent $80 on, say, those subscription boxes.
$80 divided by $12.85, that's over 6 hours of your life energy.
Over 6 hours. Almost a full workday traded for those items sitting in your drawer. When you see the cost expressed not in abstract dollars, but in concrete hours of your finite life,
it hits differently. You can physically compare that pile of stuff to a whole day of freedom you could have had or time you could have spent with loved ones.
It becomes visceral, not intellectual. They mention the couple, Maddie and Tom C., who calculated their joint real hourly wage at $10.23. For them, every single dollar they spent represented nearly 6 minutes of their combined life energy flowing away. Seeing those totals in hours month after month changes behavior fundamentally.
Okay, this is building logically. Inventory the past, track the present, and find the real wage. Tabulate the spending into life energy hours. Now, step 4. You said this is the true heart of the program.
It really is. This is where all that data collection pays off. Step 4 is where you apply critical thinking, maybe even soul-searching, to those hours of life energy totals you just calculated for each category. You do this using 3 transformational questions.
3 transformational questions. Okay, what are they?
This step requires, maybe demands, ruthless honesty with yourself. You take each category total, expressed in hours of life energy. Food, restaurants. 25 hours, clothing, fashion. 10 hours, entertainment, movies. 8 hours, and you put it under the microscope.
Microscope ready. Question 1.
Question 1. Did I receive fulfillment, satisfaction, and value in proportion to the life energy spent?
Okay. Fulfillment, satisfaction, value. Proportional to the hours invested. What does this question uncover?
This is the question that immediately exposes the dead ends in your spending. Those Gazingus pin purchases glare out at you under this light. Was that 6 hours of life energy on subscription boxes truly fulfilling? Did it provide value proportional to almost a full day of work?
Probably not.
For many people, the answers here are shocking. They might see, black and white, that they spent, say, 25 hours of life energy eating out, maybe often alone or distractedly, while perhaps only managing to spend 8 dedicated hours of life energy focused on their child that month. Even though if you ask them their values, they'd say family is number 1.
The numbers reveal the disconnect between stated values and actual life energy expenditure.
Exactly. It's not about judgment, remember. It's about awareness. Okay, question 2.
Question 2.
This one requires even deeper self-reflection. Is this expenditure of life energy in alignment with my overall values and life purpose?
Alignment with values and purpose. Okay, this goes beyond just momentary satisfaction.
Way beyond. The authors reference the work of psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and observed that the fundamental human drive is the will to find meaning and purpose in life, even more powerful than the will to pleasure or the will to power.
So to answer this question, you first have to actually know what your values and purpose are.
Bingo. That might require some separate work and reflection. What truly matters to you? Contribution, creativity, community, family, learning, adventure.
You need that internal compass for.
You do. They share the story of Samuel D., a participant who had a comfortable life teaching but felt persistently angry and frustrated. He did the program, reflected deeply, and realized his predominant desire, his purpose, was to contribute meaningfully to solving world problems.
And teaching wasn't fulfilling that for him.
Not the way he was doing it. He realized his current job didn't align with that core value. So he made a big change. He took a significant pay cut, left the school system, and started developing a private counseling practice focused on conflict resolution.
Wow. Less money, but more alignment.
Exactly. The lower paycheck was now perfectly aligned with his values, and his sense of fulfillment, his happiness skyrocketed. That's integrity.
That's a powerful example. Integrity as the matching of the internal and the external. Okay, what's the third question?
Question 3 is often the most revealing because it helps uncover unconscious patterns tied to your current work situation. The question is, how might this expenditure change if I didn't have to work for money?
Ooh, okay. This isn't about quitting your job tomorrow.
Not necessarily. It's an information gathering process, a thought experiment. It shines a light on spending habits that might exist only because you're compensating for a job you dislike or find draining.
Like if I spent a ton of life energy on expensive escape vacations or retail therapy just to cope with the 40-hour grind?
Those expenses would likely decrease dramatically or vanish altogether once that external pressure from the job is removed. You wouldn't need to escape something you weren't trapped in.
So these 3 questions help you evaluate every single spending category. What's the outcome? What do you do with the answers?
Based on your honest answers to these 3 questions for each category, you assign a simple symbol. A 0, meaning the spending level feels right, aligned, and fulfilling stay the same. An up arrow, meaning you actually want to dedicate more life energy here because it aligns deeply with your values, maybe education or charity. Or a down arrow, meaning this spending is out of alignment or not proportionally fulfilling, decrease it.
And the goal is to consciously adjust your spending over time until
all categories are either zeros or up arrows, no down arrows left. Meaning every hour of your life energy that you spend is consciously chosen, aligned with your values, and brings you proportional fulfillment.
That sounds incredibly intentional, liberating even.
It is. The case studies really illustrate the psychological shift. Think about IVU. She grew up poor, became obsessed with clothes, her Gazingus pin. She measured her self-worth, her distance from poverty, by the compliments she got on new outfits.
A classic compensation pattern.
Totally. But by asking the 3 questions, especially the fulfillment question, she realized the hours of life energy she poured into acquiring those clothes just didn't provide lasting satisfaction commensurate with the cost. Once she saw the true trade-off in hours, the desire just faded. She stopped buying compulsively, not out of grim deprivation, but out of genuine value alignment.
It wasn't a struggle because the why had changed.
Exactly. And look at Hal N. He was trapped by overhead and, frankly, guilt. He had this expensive financial planning office costing him nearly $3,000 a month in life energy.
Wow.
But asking the questions, he realized he rarely even used the office. He met most clients elsewhere. So, boom, he moved his work home, slashing that cost. He also confronted the huge amounts he was spending on his 9 adult children.
It sounds tricky.
He realized it wasn't helping them. It was guilt money that was actually enabling their dependence. By asking about alignment and fulfillment, he saw it wasn't serving anyone's true needs. Cutting out those 2 big blind spots, the office and the enabling payments, cut his monthly expenses, his life energy drain, by 50%. Just like that.
Okay, so you've used the 3 questions. You've identified the down arrows, the areas where spending needs to change. That naturally leads into section 5, right? Which sounds potentially more fun. Creative frugality.
Yes. This is where the lifestyle shift really takes shape. And it's crucial to understand what they mean by frugality here. It's not about deprivation, penny-pinching misery, or reusing tea bags until they disintegrate.
Good, because that doesn't sound very fulfilling.
Not at all. Creative frugality, in this philosophy, is about maximizing enjoyment, value, and efficiency. It's about having a high joy-to-stuff ratio.
A high joy-to-stuff ratio. I love that phrase. It implies appreciating and using what you do have rather than constantly craving more.
Exactly. It's about savoring. The source mentions the Spanish word aprovechar.
Aprovechar.
Yeah. It doesn't have a perfect English equivalent, but it means something like to use something wisely, to take full advantage of it, to make the most of it, to get every bit of goodness out of it. It's a rich, succulent concept, not a miserly one. Frugality as aprovechar.
Okay, so how do we practice this succulent frugality? What are the strategies?
Well, the first one might be the hardest for people caught in that Jobism trap we talked about. It's simple but profound. Stop trying to impress other people. Just stop. Conspicuous consumption, buying things primarily to signal status or wealth, is an endless, exhausting, and ultimately fruitless game. It's a massive drain on life energy, and honestly, the source points out, odds are other people are too busy worrying about impressing you to even notice your fancy watch or expensive car that much.
Probably true. Okay, stop the status games. What's next?
Take really good care of what you already have. Be proactive. This applies to your health, preventive dental care, healthy diet. Exercise. These save huge amounts of life energy down the line in avoided medical bills and lost vitality.
And it applies to possessions, too.
Absolutely. Simple maintenance, dusting the coils on your refrigerator so it runs efficiently, doing regular oil changes in your car, replacing a computer hard drive before it catastrophically fails, cleaning and storing tools properly. It extends the life of things, saving energy and money.
Makes sense. What about doing things yourself?
Big one. Embrace the do-it-yourself DIY spirit. The maker revolution is part of this. See every breakdown not as an immediate crisis requiring an expensive expert, but as a potential learning opportunity.
Like that story about the woman with the broken furnace.
Fantastic example. Her heating system failed midwinter. She called 3 repair companies, got 3 completely different and all very expensive diagnoses. Red flag, right?
Red flag.
She refused to just pay up. She went online, researched how her specific furnace model worked, learned about common failure points, and formed her own educated guess about the problem. Then she called a 4th company, and their diagnosis matched hers.
And she saved money.
Saved hundreds of dollars because she knew what likely needed fixing. Plus, she gained confidence and knowledge by observing their work. She turned a potential disaster into an empowering learning experience. Knowledge is currency here.
Okay, DIY. What else?
Anticipate your needs. Keep a running list maybe on your phone or notepad by the door of things you know you'll need soon. Groceries, toiletries, hardware supplies.
Why does anticipating help?
It helps you avoid impulse buys and those last-minute expensive trips to the corner store because you ran out of something crucial. You can buy things when they're on sale or in more economical quantities. The authors cheekily offer a corollary to Parkinson's law. Needs expand to encompass whatever you want to buy on impulse. Anticipation nips that in the bud.
Good one. Be prepared.
Also, consciously research value, quality, and durability. Don't just be a bargain junkie who grabs the absolute cheapest version of everything. Sometimes that's false economy.
Right, like buying cheap tools that break quickly.
Exactly. Is spending $40 in life energy on a high-quality tool that will last 10 years actually cheaper in the long run than spending $30 on one that lasts only 5 years and needs replacing sooner? You have to calculate the life cycle cost in hours.
Smart and related to that.
Buy it for less.
Huh.
This is where classic frugal tactics come in. Comparison shop, actively look for discounts, wait for sales, and embrace buying used, especially for things that depreciate rapidly.
Like cars.
Cars are the prime example. A new car loses something like 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Buying a reliable 1- or 2-year-old used car can save you a massive chunk of life energy instantly. Think Craigslist, thrift stores, consignment shops, library book sales. Reuse is frugality.
Okay, one more strategy you mentioned, meeting needs differently.
Yes, substitution. This is about recognizing the underlying need behind a desire for a material thing and finding a less expensive, often more fulfilling way to meet that need.
Can you give an example?
People often don't truly need expensive sporting equipment. They need challenge, physical activity, maybe camaraderie. They don't necessarily need closets full of designer clothes. They need respect, self-expression, a sense of belonging.
So find other ways to get respect or challenge that don't involve spending lots of life energy.
Exactly. Find community groups, volunteer, learn a skill, spend time in nature. The book gives the example of Harry N. He had this formal dining room he never used. Instead of just letting it sit there, he got creative.
What did you do?
He remodeled it into a small studio apartment. Then he found a responsible couple who were happy to do yard work and some house maintenance in exchange for affordable rent.
So he met his need for help around the house, a service, while also generating some income and utilizing wasted space. That's clever substitution.
Very clever. It's about seeing resources, time, space, skills, community connections as interchangeable forms of wealth, not just focusing on dollars.
This focus on maximizing value, on getting the most joy and utility from every hour of life energy, seems like it would naturally lead you to reconsider your income too.
It absolutely does. Which brings us neatly to step 7, valuing your life energy by maximizing income.
Okay, so it's not just about spending less, it's also about earning more effectively.
Yes, but with a crucial twist. It's about breaking that psychological chain that links your self-worth directly to your wage or salary.
Back to Jobism.
Back to Jobism.
Yeah.
The program encourages you to redefine work. Paid employment is just one form of activity. True work, in this philosophy, is activity aligned with your purpose, something that fulfills you, regardless of whether you get paid for it. Much of what we call work in the modern world is often something we do despite ourselves.
Like violence to the spirit, as the source sometimes puts it, a search for meaning that the job itself doesn't provide.
Exactly. And it's helpful here to look historically, as the source does. Anthropologists suggest that many hunter-gatherer societies, our ancestors, likely only worked, meaning hunted, gathered, prepared food, maintained tools maybe 15-20 hours a week to meet their survival needs.
Wow, only 3 or 4 hours a day.
Roughly. Contrast that with our modern doctrine of full employment, where having too much free time is often seen as a sign of failure or laziness.
We've been conditioned to equate busyness with worthiness.
We have. So the first step in maximizing income, paradoxically, is to separate your identity and purpose from your paid employment. See, paid employment for what it often is, a transaction. You are selling a specific amount of your finite life energy for a specific amount of money.
Viewing it transactionally gives you more power.
Immense power. Because if it's a transaction, your goal should be to get the highest possible return for the lowest possible investment, your life energy. You become a strategic seller of your time, not just a passive wage earner. You become a life designer.
So how do you maximize that return? Ask for a raise.
That's part of it. But it's often about recognizing your true market value and having the confidence to ask for it, or to seek out opportunities that pay better for the same or less life energy investment. They tell the story of Ted Y., a carpenter.
What did Ted do?
Ted loved carpentry, but his real dream was to write. He needed more time. less financial pressure. So, using the FI principles, he decided to try an experiment. He started bidding his remodeling jobs much, much higher than he used to.
Assuming he'd get fewer jobs, freeing up time.
That was the assumption. But to his absolute astonishment, he kept getting all the work he wanted, just at these significantly higher rates.
Why?
Because, the source suggests, his higher bids communicated confidence and signaled the high quality of his work. Potential clients respected that. His income actually went up, his work hours stabilized or went down, and his anxiety plummeted because he knew he was being fairly compensated for his skill and life energy. He proved his worth by valuing it himself first.
That's empowering. Value yourself, and the market might just agree.
Often it does. And look at the trajectory of Nina N., another case study. She started the program working as a maid. Fueled by the FI process, she systematically increased her skills and confidence. She moved up to become an administrative assistant, then eventually an executive director of a nonprofit. Her income just kept climbing.
And the wall chart played a role.
Her wall chart we'll get to that was a constant visual reminder. The more life energy she earned per hour, the faster she was moving towards the crossover point, the point where her time would finally be her own. Her earnings literally went off the chart she'd initially drawn because she was actively maximizing her pay, driven by that clear FI goal.
Okay, you mentioned the wall chart. Let's quickly circle back to that. That's step 5, right? Visibility.
Yes, step 5 is simple but psychologically powerful. Create a wall chart or, a spreadsheet, an online tracker, whatever works visually for you.
And what goes on this chart?
You plot 2 lines month after month. One line tracks your total monthly income. The other line tracks your total monthly expenses derived from your step 3 tabulation.
So you can visually see the gap between what's coming in and what's going out?
Exactly. It provides daily or weekly reinforcement. It makes the abstract goal of FI tangible, visible. It turns it into an actionable map you're drawing month by month. Seeing those lines converge or the gap widen in your favor is incredibly motivating.
Okay, chart created. Now for the final push, section 6. The mathematical path to financial independence. This is where the magic happens. Step 8, capital and the crossover point.
This is it. The crossover point is the moment the program aims for. It's the quantifiable point where your money starts working for you, potentially harder than you are working for it.
How do you know when you've hit it?
You start tracking a third line on your wall chart, your projected monthly investment income. You calculate this using a simple formula.
What's the formula?
Monthly investment income equals your total invested capital multiplied by the current long-term interest rate you can realistically expect, then divided by 12 months.
So, capital X interest rate, 12. That gives you your estimated passive income per month.
Exactly. This line represents the income your accumulated savings, your capital, is generating all on its own, without you trading any more active life energy for it.
And this passive income line, hopefully, is climbing steadily on your chart as your capital grows.
Right. And the crossover point is that magical moment on the chart when your rising monthly investment income line crosses over and permanently exceeds your monthly expenses line, which you've hopefully been lowering through creative frugality.
Wow. So the moment your investments are generating enough passive income each month to cover all your living expenses.
That's it. At that exact moment, paid employment officially becomes optional. You have reached financial independence. You are financially free.
You can choose to work or not work based on purpose and desire, not financial necessity.
That's the definition of freedom in this context. And knowing that this point is achievable, that it's a finite goal, profoundly changes people's relationship with their current work, even before they hit the crossover.
Like Larry D., the HR guy you mentioned.
Exactly. Larry worked in human resources, often dealing with tough negotiations. He did the calculations, figured out he was maybe 5 years away from his crossover point. He reported feeling suddenly bulletproof at work.
Bulletproof?
Yeah, because the financial stakes were lowered for him personally. He knew he wasn't dependent on this job forever. That gave him incredible energy, confidence. He became more effective, successfully negotiating some of the hardest settlements of his career, precisely because he wasn't operating from a place of fear or dependency anymore. The finish line was in sight.
Okay, so you track towards the crossover point, but can you figure out the target amount of capital you need in advance? Like, calculate the finish line.
Absolutely, you can work backward. This is where the famous 4% rule or the 25x rule often comes into play, particularly in the modern FIRE movement.
Explain the 4% rule.
It's a guideline based on historical market returns. The idea is that you can safely withdraw about 4% of your total invested capital each year to live on, and based on past performance, your portfolio is statistically very likely to last for 30 years or more, possibly growing even with the withdrawals.
So to find your target capital number.
You first need to know your desired annual expenses in FI. Take your refined monthly expenses from step 3, after applying the 3 questions of frugality,
Yep.
multiply by 12. Let's say your comfortable FI spending level is $3,000 per month.
Okay, $3,000 times 12 equals $36,000 per year.
Right. Now, according to the 4% rule, that $36,000 represents 4% of the total capital you need. So you divide $36,000 by 0.04.
$36,000 divided by 0.04 equals $900,000.
$900,000. That's your target FI number in this example. That's the amount of capital you need invested to generate enough passive income, using the 4% guideline, to cover your $36,000 annual expenses indefinitely.
The 25x rule is just the inverse, right?
Yep.
$36,000 times 25 also equals $900,000.
Exactly. Same calculation, different way of framing it. It gives you a concrete number to aim for on your journey.
Now, while you're accumulating that capital, the source outlines 3 distinct pillars of financial security. It seems important to differentiate these.
Very important. They are managed differently and serve different purposes. First pillar, your cushion.
The cushion. This sounds like the standard emergency fund.
Pretty much. It's 3 to 6 months worth of your basic living expenses kept in a safe, liquid place like a high-yield savings account, FDIC insured. This is your immediate buffer against job loss, unexpected repairs, short-term emergencies. It's not for investing.
Okay, cushion, liquid emergency cash. Pillar 2.
Pillar 2 is your capital. This is the big one. This is the engine of financial independence.
So this is the money that's actually invested and working for you, the $900,000 in our example?
Correct. This is the money actively invested in income-producing assets like bonds or index funds, which we'll discuss next, specifically designed to generate that passive income stream to cover your expenses after the crossover point. This is the core FI fund.
Got it. Cushion for emergencies, capital for long-term income. What's the third pillar?
The third pillar is the cash. C-A-C-H-E, pronounced like cash.
The cash. How is this different from the cushion?
This is a really interesting and psychologically astute distinction they make. The cash is also generally kept safe and relatively liquid, but it's surplus funds beyond your basic emergency cushion and your core invested capital.
Surplus for what?
It serves 2 main purposes. First, it's earmarked for replacing large, predictable, but infrequent major items without having to dip into your income-producing capital. Things like eventually needing a new used car, or major dental work like crowns, or perhaps a new roof on your house if you own one.
So it prevents big, lumpy expenses from derailing your investment income stream.
Exactly. But its second, and perhaps equally important role, is psychological reassurance. Peace of mind.
How so?
Remember Rosemary the participant whose categories showed a focus on health and aesthetics? As she got closer to her crossover point, she found herself getting anxious, uneasy.
Even though the numbers looked good.
Even though rationally she knew her projected investment income from her capital was sufficient. But her inner worrywart, as the book calls it, kept conjuring worst-case scenarios. What if I total my car and have a major medical emergency in the same year? Would the 4% withdrawal be enough?
Understandable fears.
Totally. So what did she do? She consciously built up a significant cash hole, an extra buffer of safe money beyond her cushion and capital. Just knowing that extra layer of security was there, easily accessible, quieted her inner worrier. It made her feel truly secure and allowed her to cross over with confidence. The cash is like a security blanket for the rational mind.
Cushion, capital, cash. 3 distinct pots of money with different jobs. Okay, so how do you invest the capital? That's step 9, right? Investing for FI.
Yes, step 9 addresses how to manage that core capital pillar. And the authors, writing across different eras, quite impartially present the 2 main schools of thought, or the 2 roads to investing for FI.
What's the first road, the classic one?
The classic road comes from Joe Dominguez, the original co-author, based on his experience retiring extremely early back in 1969. His approach was ultra-conservative.
How so? What did he invest in?
Joe's entire focus was on the absolute greatest safety of principal and reliability of interest. His investment vehicle of choice, U.S. Treasury bonds, period.
Just government bonds. Why?
His criteria were rigid, greatest safety, guaranteed interest payments, ideally tax-exempt interest, which some government bonds offered, complete liquidity, and maximum stability of income. He wanted zero volatility. And back then,
interest rates were much higher, weren't they?
dramatically higher. When Joe retired in '69, rates were decent, but by the early 1980s, U.S. Treasury yields went up to 15%. Can you imagine?
Wow, 15% risk-free return. No wonder he could retire early.
Exactly. With rates like that, he only needed about $75,000 in today's dollars, adjusted for inflation from his original amount, invested in bonds to generate enough income for his very frugal lifestyle. His strategy was perfectly rational and brilliant for its time.
But the crucial caveat the updated source adds
Is that times have changed drastically. We haven't seen interest rates anywhere near those levels for decades. To generate that same modest, frugal income stream today, using only ultra-safe Treasury bonds with current low yields,
you'd need way more capital.
you need closer to that $1 million figure we calculated earlier, maybe even more. You need vastly more capital today to generate the same safe income using Joe's original bond-only strategy. It's just not as feasible for early retirement for most people now.
Okay, so the classic super safe bond route requires a much bigger nest egg today. What's the second road? The modern approach.
The modern approach is the one generally favored by the FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early. This road relies primarily on low-cost index funds.
Index funds, like funds that track the entire stock market or big chunks of it.
Exactly. Funds that passively track broad market indexes like the S&P 500 or a total world stock market index. This approach follows the philosophy championed by John Bogle of Vanguard, often called the Bogleheads philosophy.
And what are the core principles there?
It's all about passive management, no trying to pick winning stocks, broad diversification, owning tiny pieces of thousands of companies, and critically, keeping investment costs extremely low, minimizing fees, expense ratios, and taxes.
Does this approach have big-name endorsements?
It does. Even legendary active investor Warren Buffett has famously advised that most individual investors, what he calls the know-nothing investor, are actually better off consistently putting their money into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund over the long term, rather than trying to beat the market or paying high fees to active managers who usually fail to do so.
So you accept market returns, minimize costs, and rely on the long-term growth of the overall economy.
Precisely. And what's really transformative about this approach is the mindset shift it requires, especially regarding market volatility.
How so? Don't index fund investors worry about crashes?
Proponents of the FIRE index fund strategy are trained to view market crashes not with panic, but almost with anticipation. They see a crash as a blowout sale on stocks.
A sale?
Yeah.
Because they can buy more shares at lower prices.
Exactly. If you're still accumulating, a crash lets you buy more assets cheaper, accelerating your path to FI. If you're already retired, the diversification and long-term perspective provide resilience. This passive, low-cost, diversified approach is generally considered reliable, flexible, and importantly, requires very little ongoing life energy to manage compared to active trading or complex strategies.
Bonds versus index funds. Two different paths for the capital. Does the source mention other investment types?
It does briefly touch on real estate as another path, specifically income-producing properties like buying a duplex or a small apartment building where tenants' rent covers the mortgage and expenses, eventually providing a positive cash flow.
The classic landlord route?
Right, but also stresses investing in your own home or land in ways that reduce your expenses, which is another form of return on investment.
Like installing solar panels.
Solar panels are a great example. Or investing in better insulation. Maybe some basic farmstead infrastructure if you have land, like rainwater collection or a vegetable garden. Or doing that creative renovation like Harry N. did to rent out space. Lowering your own expenses permanently is a direct path to needing less capital for FI. It mentions a couple who paid off their mortgage much faster by living frugally on their 8 acres and renting out 2 small apartments they created on the property.
Okay, we've covered the steps, the math, the investments. It feels like we're getting close to the finish line. But the final section, Section 7, seems to take a step back, looking beyond just the financial numbers. Wealth beyond money, natural currency. What's this about?
Yeah, this is a really important holistic part of the philosophy.
Yeah.
There's been so much time focused on national currency, dollars, pounds, euros, the money we use for transactions. But the authors argue that the wealth most people truly depend on, day in and day out, is what they call natural currency.
Natural currency.
It's the web of mutual exchange, support, skills, and connections between people and within a community. The more you consciously weave your life beneficially with others, through sharing, helping, bartering, mutual aid, the authors argue, the less actual money you need to live a secure and fulfilling life.
So it's about moving from pure financial independence to maybe financial interdependence.
That's a great way to put it, interdependence. Relying on each other, building collective resilience, which can actually be much more robust and adaptable than trying to be a completely isolated, independent financial fortress.
How do they break down this natural wealth? You mentioned ABCs.
Yes, they summarize this natural wealth, the non-monetary pillars supporting your life, using the ABCs: abilities, belonging, and community.
Okay, A is for abilities. What does that mean?
Abilities are your personal skills, your knowledge, your competencies. What do you know how to do yourself without needing to pay someone else? Can you cook, garden, repair basic things, navigate bureaucracy, offer useful advice, care for others?
These are forms of wealth because they reduce your need to spend money.
Exactly. They increase your self-sufficiency and resilience. They mentioned Damon S., a participant who realized through the program that he fundamentally lacked the practical skills to meet his basic needs without relying heavily on money.
So what did he do?
He made a plan. He consciously cut his expenses way down, saved up some money, and then enrolled in a wilderness college program for a year.
Wilderness college.
Yeah, to learn practical self-sufficiency skills, foraging, basic survival, maybe some carpentry or mechanics. He invested his life energy in building his abilities, which increased his internal sense of security far more than just having a bigger bank balance might have. He decreased his reliance on the market.
That's powerful. Okay, B is for belonging.
Belonging. This is about who walks with you through life. Who are your people? It's about cultivating deep, enduring friendships, strong family ties, if applicable, reliable partnerships, supportive mutual aid networks.
Why is belonging considered natural currency?
Because strong relationships are a huge source of non-monetary support. Friends help each other move, provide childcare, offer emotional support during tough times, share resources, lend tools. The source notes that traditional support structures like extended families or tight-knit religious communities are perhaps less common or geographically concentrated today for many people.
So we have to be more intentional about building our tribe.
Exactly. Building that chosen family or strong network becomes even more crucial. As the material states, isolation is expensive financially and emotionally. Sharing resources, knowledge, and support within a trusted group is wealth.
Makes sense. And C is for community. How is that different from belonging?
Community is slightly broader. It refers to the social environment you live in, the shared resources and infrastructure available to you. Think about the savings, the natural currency you gain from things like well-funded public libraries.
Free access to books, internet, programs.
Right, or safe public parks for recreation, good public transportation, community gardens, tool lending libraries, maybe local time banks.
Time banks? What are those?
Time banks are fascinating community systems where people exchange services based on time credits. You spend an hour helping someone with, say, gardening, and you earn one-time credit. You can then spend that credit to receive an hour of service from someone else, maybe getting help with computer problems or getting a haircut or having someone cook you a meal.
So it's a non-monetary exchange of skills and time within the community.
Exactly. It fosters connection and allows people to access services they need without spending dollars. Utilizing these shared community resources actively reduces your reliance on individual purchasing power.
Abilities, belonging, community, these are the non-financial pillars.
Right. And the source suggests that your total nest egg, your true foundation for a secure and resilient life, isn't just your financial savings, your stuff savings. It rests on all four corners: abilities, belonging, community, and your financial resources. True wealth integrates all four.
That feels much more holistic and, frankly, achievable for more people than just focusing on hitting a huge financial number in isolation.
It does. But we also need to acknowledge a psychological reality that often pops up right near the end of the financial journey.
What's that?
Even when people have done all the steps, their chart looks great. The crossover point is imminent. Many hit an unexpected emotional wall. They call it the crossover point jitters.
Jitters, like fear of success.
Sort of. It manifests as sudden anxiety, fear, doubt. People think, oh my God, I'm almost there. But what will I actually do with all this freedom? Who am I if I'm not my job title? I'm terrified.
The void of unstructured time can be scary after decades of the grind.
It absolutely can. The identity shift is huge. Joe Dominguez anticipated this. During his accumulation years, he didn't just save money, he actively designed and tested what his FI life would look like. He bought and customized his motorhome, took weekend trips, practice the lifestyle you plan to live.
So he had a plan for freedom, not just a plan to freedom.
Beautifully put. Having a positive vision, concrete plans, maybe focusing on improving physical and mental health during that transition, these are essential to navigate the jitters and step confidently into FI.
Okay, let's try to wrap up this incredibly rich deep dive. We've journeyed from redefining money itself as life energy, all the way to the practical steps for achieving financial independence and building natural wealth.
We learned that money, fundamentally, is just the finite time and energy we invest, hoping for security and happiness.
We saw the deceptive nature of the fulfillment curve, how more stuff doesn't always equal more joy, and the truly liberating power of calculating your real hourly wage to see the true cost of your job.
And we mapped out the tangible path, the inventory, the tracking, the tabulation, the crucial 3 questions for alignment.
Leading eventually to that crossover point on the wall chart where your investment income covers your expenses and paid employment becomes truly optional.
And woven through it all was this challenge to the psychological bondage of Jobism, that pervasive habit of measuring our human worth by our paychecks and titles.
Recognizing that our paid employment is often, maybe mostly, just transactional.
While true work, true fulfillment, comes from activities aligned with our deeper purpose, whether they generate income or not.
Which brings us, as always, to our final, provocative thought for you, the listener, to carry forward this week. We've talked a lot about the difference between transactional, paid employment, and purposeful work. We've seen how Jobism can trap us. So the question is this. Since your paid job is often largely transactional and your true work aligns with your purpose, what is the one concrete step, maybe small, maybe bold, that you will take this week? Will it be finally calculating your real hourly wage, taking a hard look at your clutter, answering the 3 questions about one spending category, simply saying no to one habitual Gazingus pin purchase?
What one action will you take to begin the shift?
The shift away from being primarily a consumer, one who, by definition, uses up, wastes, and squanders precious resources and life energy towards becoming a conscious designer. A designer of a life filled not necessarily with more, but with enough. Enough of what truly matters, enough to align with your deepest values, enough to honor your finite, precious life energy. What's your first step on that design journey?